Hi, guys. I hope everyone is having a good evening. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Nancy Woodrum case. A lot of people have been messaging me with the similarities between the two cases of Nancy Guthrie and Nancy Woodrum. And I myself hadn't heard of the case before, which I was surprised. And apparently 2020 on ABC did episode this past weekend about the Nancy Woodrum case. So it's, becoming more well known. So I looked it up, I did some research, and I do agree that there are some eerie similarities. So I will start from the beginning. Nancy Woodrum was a woman in her 60s, and she was living alone after her husband passed away a few years before this. So the year was 2018 when this occurred, and Nancy Woodrum was a business owner and owned a hair salon. And she lived, like I said, alone in a Victorian ranch-style house that she loved. And so, in May of 2018, her daughter, Amanda Peel, alerted authorities that something was not right with her mom. Basically, she was seen the night before in her home. And the next morning, somebody from her church noticed that she did not attend a Bible study that she was supposed to. And so she alerted Amanda, and like many of you have pointed out, that is a huge similarity to the Guthrie case. As you guys know, she was last seen at home. She didn't show up for a church function the next morning. That the person that noticed that alerted the family. So in the Woodrum case, Amanda did not live right there. And so she had a neighbor go and check on her mom. The neighbor went over, and the door was wide open, the TV was blaring, and things just did not look right. And Nancy was nowhere to be found. So they called authorities. Authorities came, investigated, and during their investigation, they found blood splatter in the bedroom, as well as missing bedding. And again, the bedroom is another similarity to the Guthrie case. We haven't heard about any bedding or anything like that, but there apparently was DNA found. So in the Woodrum case, they ended up finding that missing bedding as well as discarded clothing on the side of a highway that was like about an hour away from where Nancy lived. So 7 months go by without any leads. I hope to God that the Guthrie case doesn't take this long. But authorities ended up being able to do geofencing. And in 2018, that was a relatively unknown thing. And geofencing is them being able to see what phones are in a certain area at a certain time. And they did that in the Guthrie case. To my knowledge, it was not successful, and I believe it's because times have changed. People are more aware of what can be tracked and what can't be tracked. So in the Woodrum case, they were able to find out who was around that area at the time and narrow it down to someone that was linked to Nancy Woodrum. It was a painter, and the painter had worked on Nancy's deck previously. And his name is Carlos Fuentes Flores. So they did have DNA from the bedroom, from the suspect. They compared that to DNA they got off a soda bottle that Carlo discarded in the trash, and it matched. So they were able to bring him in at that point in time and confronted him with it. He ended up admitting to doing it. He said that he broke into her house, he sexually assaulted her, and then he smothered her with a pillow to cover up the assault. And he ended up agreeing to leading the investigators to her remains, which unfortunately by that time were skeletal, but they were able to be given back to her, to her children at least, to put her to rest. And so the motive for this, when asked why he did this, he said, for one, he was intoxicated at the time. Two, he thought she liked him because she gave him refreshments when he was working on her deck. Something a lot of us grew up like our parents doing. Some of us still do it today. Unfortunately, it's less popular now because, just like this story, it's really a shame. My husband said when I was talking to him about the case, he said it's really a shame when you have to stop doing something nice for someone because of someone else's bad actions, which it really is true. Like it's really a shame. But yeah, so he thought that she liked him because of that and decided to do all of this. So he was eventually convicted and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And prior to that, though, he pleaded not guilty despite his confession. And he also wrote an apology letter to Nancy Woodrum's family and said he felt so bad about it. Then when it was time to go to court, he said he was not guilty, which obviously made no sense because why would you admit to something and write an apology letter if you didn't do it? So that's why he was found guilty. And so, yeah, there are a lot of eerie similarities there. And, I hope on one instance that the Nancy Guthrie is solved, at least like this case where, at least if the worst has happened, her children get her remains back to put her to rest. But on the other hand, I really hope that the same thing didn't happen to Nancy Guthrie that happened to Nancy Woodrum. I have been worried that that's the case because authorities have been unusually tight-lipped around the topic of Nancy Guthrie's bedroom and what was found in it. It makes me wonder, if some things went on there that they're trying to protect her privacy, tread very carefully on. I really hope that's not the case. That is horrible. It was horrible for Nancy Woodrum. It would be horrible to happen to Nancy Guthrie or anybody else. So I just wanted to cover that real quick because, yeah, I've been getting a lot of people saying, like, hey, look at this. Like, these cases are very similar. And like I said, I'm surprised I had never heard of this case before. And yeah, it's very interesting. Hopefully, like I said, it does not take 7 months to solve this. But at the rate we're going, unfortunately, and Nanos is still involved to some extent. I don't have a ton of hope that this is going to be done and over with soon. But I hope you guys have a good rest of your evening and that you get all comfy and cozy and cuddle up on the couch with your pet, your child, your significant other, whoever it is, and just enjoy the evening. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.